C10 Talk, episode 143, DCS, Diesel Conversion Specialist. You're thinking about doing a diesel swap? You better listen up.
Some of the Turbo 400s, yes, they can be built to hold up. If you just want to burn out King, for sure. That's a great transmission. But because it lacks an overdrive, this is where your fuel economy is really going to be left to be desired there. And so with the 4L80, I'll use in this example, modern transmission control modules such as US Shift, they offer a Quick 4 is one module that I'm familiar with. I really like it. It's very user-friendly. If you've never tuned a transmission in your life, you've got a real good shot. They made it very simple to tune. Now the more modern, let's say 6L and 8L, 80 and 90, they might be fine transmissions from a conversion perspective, but really I would beg the question, what do you gain? Honestly, there's a lot more gears here to keep those engines in the power band, if you will, but you really don't gain anything on the top end. So if you want to go 80 miles an hour down the highway, you're not going to get any really that much better cruising speed or cruising economy out of a 8L80 or an 8L90 versus a 4L80. It's just more gears.
Damn, son. If you're like me and you want the best possible products for your build, Mar-K Quality Parts has you covered. From side moldings to bedwood and so much more. mar-k.com and follow them on Instagram too. Whether you're looking to replace your original steering, update those old brakes, or improve your suspension and handling, Classic Performance Products has got your classic truck covered. You can save 10% by using code C10TALK at checkout. 10%. ClassicPerform.com. When you're looking for classic Chevy or GMC truck parts, BrothersTrucks.com is your number one source for 1947 to 87 Chevy and GMC restoration parts. Head over to BrothersTrucks.com and order your free catalog today. Vintage Air. Their SureFit kits are the best value and the most completely engineered AC systems you can install in your truck. The choice is obvious. VintageAir.com.
Welcome to C10 Talk, your C10 Truck podcast. Here's your host, Ronnie Welch.
All right. What up, C10 Nation? Episode 143. Having a good time. Back from vacation. It's hot in Arizona. Montana was nice. We got a few things going for you. Little raffle. So let's kick it off with that. So bottom line is we're just doing a little raffle to give back. So if you guys spend some money, any purchase over $25 or more gets you a ticket, a raffle ticket. If you spend increments of 25, 50, 75, you get 2-3 tickets. So essentially for every $25 you spend, c10nation.com, you're going to get a ticket. Now, what are we raffling off? A ton of cool stuff. I wouldn't say there's anything drastic. $50 gift certificate for C10 Nation. And then I was able to pick up some of the AutoZone 40-year anniversary M2 square bodies. So they are rad. AutoZone's been in service or been in business for 40 years. And so what they did to commemorate that, they teamed up with M2, and they've got two square bodies, a black and white two-tone that's kind of got some cool rally style blacked out lowered rims. It's on top of a little lift, and then an orange and white square body that's more stock. And they both have a 40-year commemorative kind of stamp or sticker on the hood. And again, they're on kind of a lift. Comes in a little box. M2machines.com. You could get it at AutoZone and only at AutoZone. And I'll be honest with you, they're hard to come by. So I've got one of those, and then I've got a half dozen to a dozen hats, some shirts, some sticker packs. That'll run through July 31st. If you've got a shirt or a sticker or something that you want, check out the website, c10nation.com. We got the new C10 summer shirt out, which is a really rad, probably close to my favorite shirt we've ever done. Very popular shirt. If you've thought about buying it, if you've seen it, buy it now because we've actually already run out of sizes. So The larges, extra larges, and 2X are looking fine. I don't think we have any more mediums. And I'm kind of looking, I don't see how many larges I have. But if you think about it, you want one, buy it now. And even the Freedom Machines, or Freedom Warrior, which was a Freedom Machine by Chevrolet, those are hot too. So check it out, c10nation.com. That's our raffle. The OBS reaction has been really good. The OBS community, some guys are reaching out like we were the redheaded stepchild compared to C10s, and we don't get the love. It's hard because I kind of look at OBS as they are C10. They're like a 4.5, or I guess if you look at like a Squarebody as a 3.5 on a C10 generation, then the OBS are the 4th generation of GM trucks. But they're rad trucks. We grew up with them. I did, 88 to 98. And the reaction's been really, really strong, really good. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to the previous episode of 142, dropped a little OBS love. And what I'd like to do is probably every other month and a half, we're going to drop an OBS episode. I literally had 8 of them down, and I'm already up over 12. So I probably could do them once a month. I'm going to do them once a month. I'll try. We'll see. I'll do 8 of them. You guys do the math. I think it's every other month. I've got a ton of guys. But some guys, like Joey G, he's slotted to get on my show, and he's an OBS C10 guy. So does that count as an OBS show? I don't know. I don't care. Bottom line is, we're going to interview rad dudes with rad trucks. You sit back, you listen, and honestly, just have fun and try to support the people that support us. So all the little commercials you get to listen to, those guys are supporting us. So by supporting us, you get to listen to the show. OBS meaning, that was one of the fun topics that I kind of threw out in episode 142. Old body style, that's what it stands for. Now, how did that come about? It makes a ton of sense. Old body style came about when the forums, which if you think about, the trucks came out in 88, and that first gen was 88 to 94. Well, if you were getting on a computer, you were probably doing it at school or at the library or something like that. Because I don't even think, I kind of base it off of getting hired in the fire department in 97, and I wasn't sending emails. I wasn't sending emails till 98, 99. So the forums, I think 67 to 72, I think that kind of established, or it was established in 97. But bottom line is, forums took hold in 2000 to 2004. That's where you think about where the forums kind of came from. Well, with the second gen of trucks, what would be the NBS, or the new body style, that would have been right when the forums came out. So 99 to 2006, 2007 if you've got a classic, which is just a fancy way of saying leftover. That's what I have. That's where they came up with it. So old body style, new body style. The new body style was right when the forums were taking shape, and it stuck. And what's kind of lame is that it went OBS, then it went NBS, and then it went NNBS. So new body style. That's going to be your 07 to 13s. So GMT, GM Truck -400 is also an OBS, an 88 to 98. GMT 480, I believe, is the GMC. Obviously, I dived into Wikipedia and looked at it a little bit. The new body style, the 99 to 2006, is GMT 800. GMT 900 is the 07 to 13. Now, why they went from GMT 4, then they doubled it to 8, and then they just added 1. So 400 to 800, then 800 to 900. And I honestly don't know if the 15 to 18s are GMT 1000s or whatever. I don't know. I didn't dive in more than that, but OBS, old body style, comes from the forums, and they also can be referred to as GMT-400. I have seen that. People would respond to that on the podcast or on the Instagram stuff. I was seeing that a little bit, but you can get on. There's GMT400.com. That's probably one of the popular forums at the time. So there's a lot of stuff out there. The forums are still alive. I don't know if they're necessarily on life support at this point. I still think people enjoy them. I think Facebook groups have predominantly taken over that. Facebook's tough. I like Instagram. Facebook gets a lot of, gets a lot of bad publicity when it comes to your privacy. And, there's rumors of stuff where, think about this. Somebody, whatever, had their phones, 3 dudes, their phones, and they just left them there. And all they talked about was parrots or something like that. And then they all started getting notifications on parent stuff, parrots, I should say. So has that ever happened to you? It's happened to me where I've been talking about something and next thing I know I'm on Google or eBay or whatever it is and there's an ad that pops up for something that I've talked about and I don't ever remember doing a search on it or something like that. So do I think Facebook or the world we live in is listening? Yeah, I think they are. So Facebook, whatever. I mean, it has its goods and it has its bads just like everything, but I guess I'm more of an Instagram guy. Moving along, OBS, it's OBS Talk. We're gonna do takeovers every now and then. So hopefully you guys dig that. The response has been tremendous. In Arizona, if you're here, Travis over at AZ Pro is gonna have a little Cars and Coffee this Saturday. That's like the 19th or 20th or something like that. So 20th, the morning of, hit up AZ Pro. That's a local show. Speaking of shows, I missed the Brothers 21st Annual Show and Shine. That was on July 7th. Now, going back, they rescheduled it. They had it on Father's Day. They rescheduled it. It was a new park, and they capped it at 650. They sold out previous to the show, and everybody that went, I'm jealous that you were there, and I wasn't, but I was in Montana, and I was having a lot of fun. So I'm jealous, but I don't think I would change it. 650, brothers doing what they do, and I heard the park was awesome. I heard the weather was great. I heard it was, everything was good except no cell phone service or no data. So I think they're going to look at fixing that. I'll talk to those guys and find out what they're thinking because that helps them if people can, post and get out. So everything was a hit except for the internet. So another show that just happened was going to be the Southeastern Truck Nationals. C10 Deputy Brian Ashley, congratulations. 707 trucks, 707. So I did talk to Oro today, and he said that it was awesome. The best thing about it is just the people. So I got to make that happen next year. That's going to be their 10-year anniversary next year, 2020, Southeastern Truck National. He has it in mid-July. It's always tough for me, but I got to make that one happen. Congratulations, Brian. Congratulations to everybody that won the awards. The one truck and the one post that I probably got the most of was C10 Briggs. If you guys don't know who C10 Briggs on, himself, his family, Trinity, Maya, Jeremiah, the father-in-law, which is, I think that's Jeremiah's dad. Great family, C10 family, and Briggs is a young man. I think he's 16 now. He's got a killer 64 to 66 that he's been building and slammed it on the ground. So congratulations, Briggs, on that. Congratulations, Brian, on another successful show. We do a couple awards for that show, 67 to 72 best of, and then all around winner best of. Congratulations to everybody. A little long-winded on my pre-show here, so I'm going to wrap it up. Diesel conversions. I was in Montana. I remember listening to the Diesel Performance podcast, and we did a little podcast swap with those guys. And I'm actually not even getting that right. What is that podcast? I listened to it. I'm messing it up, but good dudes over there. I remember I was traveling a couple years ago in the summer, which is usually where I'm able to listen to most of my pod. And I enjoy that. It's actually kind of therapeutic. I just drive and listen. That's the Diesel Performance Podcast. I got it right. Sweet. They started off 1, 2, 3 interviewing like Cummins, Power Stroke, and Duramax guys. So each episode 1, 2, 3 was its own specialty. And Sean was on there, and I remember that. So he's up in Kalispell. That's where I was. I'm sitting there on the dock of my lake house, and not mine, but the one we rented. And I'm like, dude, those guys are right here. I pull them up. They're like 10 miles from me. I blow them on Instagram. I blow them up on Instagram. I leave a message at the shop, And I want to say that was like a Sunday or a Saturday. And I'm like, dude, if you guys are in on Monday, let me know. So they hit me back. And sure enough, I just jammed up there. I brought my stuff because I just had my mobile stuff. So you'll hear the audio. You could tell, but I think we managed it, and I edited it just fine. So I hope you like it. I mean, anytime somebody's willing to sit down and they've got something to share for the C10 Nation, I'm willing to do it. And I had a blast doing it. The only other thing I wanted to add that I thought was kind of funny, and this is for my homie, Mr. Offend Somebody Friday, Umberto from Volcan Specialties, probably one of the, most talented builders. I love what he does, and he's got that slammed first-gen Dodge. So if you put a Cummins in a Ford, they call it a Fummins, which that's probably DCS's number one thing that they do is Cummins 1224s, 6.7s in Fords to get rid of the 6.0 and the 6.4 Power Stroke. So that's called a Fummins. If you put a Cummins in a Squarebody, then you could call it a Summons. That sounds pretty cool. If you put a Cummins in a Chevrolet, then it's a Cummins, like it should be. But if you put a Cummins in a Dodge, is it called a Dummins, Umberto? A Dummins. I'm just saying, bro. I used to own a 96. I mean, I liked it. 12 valve, the whole thing. But a Dodge Cummins Dummins, if it's a Ford Fummins, I mean, work with me here. All right, guys. I write my own material, so deal with it. C10 Talk, you guys like the pod, love the pod, support the people that support us. Get on the raffle if you want to win this little AutoZone thing or a $50 gift certificate for C10 Nation. Hopefully you're jamming out and you're listening to all the content that we have. We're kicking butt on these things. You've got the C10 Vatos, so I guess go back. You've got Metalox, C10 Vatos, Corey Hogan. You'll be sitting on the edge of your seat. This guy went 250 miles an hour. He just went 100 and something in his C10, and I was like, dude, that must just feel like so slow for a guy who goes 250 on a motorcycle, or did. Provost, Sean Provost, congratulations to those guys. They just made the cover for Street Trucks, and that'll be out the next one on newsstands. And that little Blazer they have, they let us drive that. My son and I, he let us take that out for a spin. That's a fun little Blazer. They were in-house for a little interview. Provost Motorsports, Sean and Dennis were here. And then OBS Talk with AZ Pro Travis. And then 143 DCS with Sean. And have already recorded 144. If you guys, have followed along on social media, a guy took out a truck to Gas Monkey. He was actually just visiting. And Richard saw the truck. It was a 69 GMC. Took it over, was just passing by, went to Gas Monkey to get some shirts. Richard walks out and says he wants to buy it. He's going to make it the GMG C10. And the guy, bottom line is it gets stolen before Richard can buy it. So next episode, 144. That'll be next. You guys, please love the pod. Share the pod. Leave us a review on iTunes if you can. You know the deal. Love us. Your mama, your brother, your sister. Share the pod. Let everybody know about it. Have a great week. That's it. Stay out of trouble. Do what you do. Late. All right. C10 Nation in the house, on location, DCS, Diesel Conversion Specialist in Kalispell, Montana. On a little vacation up here with my family, and I remember that DCS was up here, and I reached out to him. Sean was nice enough to have us over and give us a little shop tour and then sit down and record some pod, because we know you guys are thinking about diesel conversions. You're doing diesel conversions, and what better way to go right to the source. So Sean Patterson, Diesel Conversion Specialist, Kalispell, Montana. Sean, welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much for having us. This is a great opportunity.
Go ahead and tell us a little bit about DCS and the background and how you got involved with it.
Well, Diesel Conversion Specialist, as far as I understand, started one day in a guy's garage when he was tired of his early first-gen Power Stroke and said, this thing's got to go, and I'm going to put a Cummins in place of it. And that's where it all started. So we've evolved a long ways. We make adapter plates for a lot of Ford as well as GM transmissions, mostly on the automatic side for the GM, just because they are so desirable, and especially in a swap.
For the audience, we're passing the mic back and forth because I brought my little mobile setup like I take to shows, so you might have a little space in between, and I'll clean it up as much as I can. But obviously my question formats for Sean today are based upon C10, or primarily even going to be like a C30 when you think about a 1-ton or a 3/4 ton truck. For example, like Yellowstone, the square bodies are pretty popular. You say you do a lot for GM, you do a lot for Ford. I remember on the one podcast you had, you said that you get a lot of guys who have Ford trucks and they love their Ford trucks, but they maybe just aren't that happy with the power plant and the heart of that motor. So you guys, they'll bring them in and they'll do conversions. What Cummins do you see when guys bring in a truck, or what Cummins do you primarily swap into trucks?
For the most part, I think that the 12-valve Cummins is by far the most popular, and whether that's because of its all mechanical nature, most likely that's the reason for it. But we do see a fair amount of electronically controlled engines as well. They are desirable. They're not as bad to swap in as a lot of people think, and we can make it a little easier with the wiring harnesses that basically we take and modify a wire harness, and when it comes back, it's plug and play, ready to make your late model Cummins go.
So it sounds like, not unlike an LS, where we see a lot of people taking their old trucks. They've got a tired inline, they've got a tired 350, and they're like, hey, I want to put an LS. Why not take a modern power plant and put it in your old truck? And, we see a lot of people updating their chassis, their suspension. So once you get into that drivetrain, we kind of get the best of both worlds. Where do you get your motors? Where are you finding these motors? And do you just buy them like everybody else?
Yes, in some regards. Typically, when we do a conversion, there's two different options. Basically, if you want us to supply an engine, we humbly request that it would be a fully remanufactured that we can send out the door with a warranty. Or by all means, you can bring us an engine. And really, there's a lot of engine sellers out there. One of the top names in Cummins engine sales is probably Chad McKinney from out in Ohio. He's easily found on eBay. So if you're looking for an engine, a Cummins engine that is, on eBay, Chad's going to come up in your search anyway.
Okay, so you prefer a rebuilt motor then, is what you're saying. Obviously not a stock motor. Walk us through that. Let's say that somebody has a C10. They want a motor. They find a motor local, or they buy one. Because I got to think that Chad McKinney, to ship a motor's got to be a lot. Do you guys do that, and how much does that cost?
Good question. No, we don't really buy or sell engines. We purchase them and then install them. It can probably be $300 to $500 or more, depending on where you live. So, to find something local is ideal, and possibly, some might argue, to find a complete donor pickup truck where you have access, unbridled access to throttle cables, wire harnesses, whatever you may need, and then scrap or sell off what you don't. Plus, a lot of times you can drive that vehicle home. It's probably a rust bucket since it's a Dodge, but depending on where you get it, might still be in one piece and drivable.
So if you have time and you have the means, buy one, get it from back east. The motor's still going to be fine. The metal around it's going to be a little rusty probably, but you could jump on a flight one way, get in a truck, and bring a few tools along the way, make a journey of it, if you will, and have a good time. You might meet some guys along the way, a little roadkill-esque, and hopefully you don't break down. But so you got to get yourself a power plant. I don't know that we really hit that. Do you prefer a 12 or a 24? Or if my audience is listening and they want a Cummins, what should they look for conversion into all eras of C10? So 60 to 87 square bodies, 67 to 72s, 60 to 66, whatever it might be. Is there one that you prefer or you recommend?
This is a really tough question, and we get this a lot. No, this is really just personal preference. The 12-valve is a fine engine. It really put Cummins on the map to be their million-mile engine. Now, of course, it depends on how you drive the vehicle. If it's 5 miles to work and you shut it down, might not make her to 1 million, but the 12-valve is world famous for reliability. Albeit some of the later model Cummins can be really desirable as well, such as, let's say, a late 90s, early 2000 era 24-valve. There's a little wiring involved. We can certainly help you out with that, and they do have some tunability to them because of their electronic nature. So electronics, along with, similar to an LS, it kind of goes hand in hand. There are some benefits to that as well. So The later model, like a 6.7 or even a common rail engine, is quite a bit different than an earlier 12 valve, but can still be a desirable power plant.
So when we walked around, what I noticed was the biggest thing is really for a conversion, you're going to obviously have to get different motor mounts. You're going to have to make a decision, what transmission am I going to have behind my power plant? For myself and for the audience, I've had a Cummins. I had a 96 Cummins, and it had the automatic, and that was beyond the weak link of that truck. The Cummins would do fine. It would pull great, but if I got out of that peak performance RPM and I lost that, I really had a tough time getting back into that. I remember putting a torque converter lockup, trying to think, okay, how can we stay into that? So your decision is going to be, what transmission do I want and what transmission am I going to put behind this power plant? So Sean, another hard question. What tranny should they put behind their 12, 24, 6, 7, whatever Cummins they're thinking about? What tranny should they put behind, or do you recommend?
Another fine question, and I think really, this is an arguable point. Some may say, well, why should I buy a custom adapter plate and flex plate from someone like Diesel Conversion Specialist? Shouldn't I just put in the Dodge transmission? And for some people, that may make sense. However, you really kind of surmised it with it's the weak link. The Dodge automatics are well known to kind of not hold up real well to that big torque that the Cummins produces. So you've got two main options that I can see here. You've got either build that Dodge automatic transmission and put that in along with the Cummins engine, but now you also have to fabricate a transmission mount. Not the end of the world, might be easier for some than others, but that's just the nature of it. A lot of times I find, and this is along the lines of the transmissions of the older eras, have a physical cable coming out of the back of the transmission or the transfer case if it's a four-wheel drive that goes up to the speedometer. Well, that's a big deal because Dodge, the automatics and the manuals, have always used an electronic pickup. So now you're faced with some other issues like, putting in an aftermarket instrument cluster, dealing with those electronics and making that function in your factory instrument cluster. So that being said, the GM automatics are very desirable. They hold up well to the torque. They've got great shift points. They've got good gear splits and ratios, and you don't have to make a custom transmission mount. It's just bolt-in replacement. So if you've got an old, Turbo 400 and you would like to go with a more modern 4L80, for the most part, it's pretty much bolt-in replacement. You've got some transmission lines to run and things like that, but it's pretty straightforward from a swap perspective.
Okay, excellent. Now, I would assume that you would not want to put a Turbo 350 or a 700 R4 behind any Cummins, because I don't think that they can barely handle like a 350 or a big block power, obviously the torque. So for the audience, I would think a built 400 would do okay. I'm kind of holding the mic over here, so we're going to get back to Sean. A 4L80, and then, what do you think about the new stuff, the 6L90s and the 8L90s? What's your thoughts on, because that's really going to be the primary what we're looking at, I think, right? So those four, unless there's a Chevrolet NV4500, and we can talk about that a little bit too. Should they go with a Dodge NV4500 or a Chevrolet NV4500, and then back to that, that group of four transmissions? So you bought a C10, and it either had AC at one time or it wasn't even an option. Well, Vintage Air has the solution for you. Their SureFit kits are designed to place the evaporator and hoses behind the dash for a factory clean look. In most cases, the SureFit systems will be controlled by your stock dash controls using their exclusive cable converters. In some applications, a new factory look control panel is included with the kit. The SureFit systems provide full OEM-style operations, including air conditioning, floor or vent heating, and a powerful defroster. To retain a true factory look, the AC air exits through the factory dash louvers, if originally equipped in your truck. The Gen 4 kit provides infinite, just right temperature, air blending, and blower fan speed adjustments. The Vintage Air SureFit kits are the best value and the most completely engineered air conditioning system you can install in your C10. Add the fact that Vintage Air has been the most respected name in performance aftermarket climate control systems for 40 years. 40 years? Damn, son. The choice is obvious. VintageAir.com. Marquet has been in business for over 40 years. It all started in the original owner's garage. From humble beginnings of a couple parts in a garage to a 2-building manufacturing facility making over 6,000 parts, Marquet has grown to be one of the country's premier truck parts manufacturers. They not only design the products, but also design the tooling to build the products, guaranteeing quality control. They have made their original parts from the original trucks. Aluminum strips are double polished, creating a mirror finish, and crystal clear anodized. They use the highest quality, hand-selected show quality wood that will hold up over time. Why? Because it's kiln dried to precision moisture levels specifically for Marquet. They stock oak, pine, and mini exotics, guaranteeing extremely fast delivery. All parts are manufactured in-house in Oklahoma City, USA. They offer quality parts built by Americans for old American-made trucks. So when you're looking for body moldings, bed strips, bed wood, and so much more, think Marquet. That's mar-k.com.
Should they go with a Dodge NV4500 or a Chevrolet NV4500, and then back to that, that group of 4 transmissions?
Yeah, so basically the GM NV4500, there is a version of that, but it is different, however. Not that it's weaker or stronger or better or worse. What it really boils down to is because GM kept their bell housing so similar throughout all of these eras here, they basically use a 12-inch clutch, and that can be a weak link. Yes, you can get some big, nasty 12-inch clutches that'll hold up to the Cummins torque, but then they become fairly unstreetable. Like when you start talking ceramic disc clutches and things like that, from a streetability perspective, they're not real friendly. They're not mild-mannered. And so the Chevy NV4500 could be used, but you have some other things to consider as well. In the automatic realm, yeah, the 4L60, 4L80, they're fine transmission choices, more so probably the 4L80. And some of the Turbo 400s, yes, they can be built to hold up. If you just want to burn out King, for sure, that's a great transmission. But because it lacks an overdrive, this is where your fuel economy is really going to be left to be desired there. And so with the 4L80, I'll use in this example, modern transmission control modules such as US Shift, they offer a Quick 4 is one module that I'm familiar with. I really like it. It's very user-friendly. If you've never tuned a transmission in your life, you've got a real good shot. They made it very simple to tune. It can store different 4 different calibrations that you can go from good economy to a tow haul to a burnout, off-road, fill in the blank. Many options, and it's super powerful, very easy to wire. There's really only a few wires to splice in its throttle position. And so, yeah. Now, the more modern, let's say 6L and 8L, 80 and 90, they might be fine transmissions from a conversion perspective, but really, I would beg the question, what do you gain? Honestly, there's a lot more gears here to keep those engines in the power band, if you will, but you really don't gain anything on the top end. So if you want to go 80 miles an hour down the highway, you're not going to get any really that much better cruising speed or cruising economy out of a 8L80 or an 8L90 versus a 4L80. It's just more gears.
It's really something to think about. You're just going through more paces to get to the same spot. And that was something that we kind of talked about before we went on air. Sean's got a really kind of a little Excel spreadsheet breaking down some of the Dodge, some of the Ford, some of the GM transmissions. It's like, hey, you're going through more steps to get there. And if you think about why GM's doing it, just real roughly, we were kind of talking about how a motor will switch out from, 8 cylinders down to, flex into 4 cylinders. Well, there's where that tranny comes in play. So neither of our tranny specialists by any means. I'm sure we could get into a whole thing of tranny talk. The bottom line is this is a Cummins conversion shop, and you see a lot of it. Out in the shop, they've got a handful of trucks they're working on right now. Now, what would you say is your specialist, the aftermarket products that you make and deliver from the adapter to the tranny, the motor mounts. One thing that I did see was the AC bracket. Kind of go through the different things you offer, especially the C10 Nation.
So yeah, we've got quite a few different options here, and some of them do vary, because if you're going to use a 12-valve Cummins, it is obviously going to be a little bit different than that of a 24-valve. So, the real crux of it is engine mounts. Let's get the engine sitting in the frame and get it in there. Let's get the transmission adapted, whatever route you want to go. Now, once you've got the power plant in place, your conversion really starts to take shape and form here. Now it's, fit and finish. Do you want air conditioning? A lot of guys are going to say, yes, I do. Do you want cruise control? Do you want some of the more modern amenities or creature comforts in your conversion? And so we do have a high mount AC bracket as well. That the reason for that is to get the engine down in the frame as far as you can for good center of gravity, but also where that AC compressor sits in a Dodge pickup truck is right where the frame is on a C10. And that's kind of the key difference. So this high mount AC bracket moves the AC compressor up and away from the frame, so it's just a better fit and finish, basically.
So they offer quite a bit, different things for the conversion. Now, for the audience, I talked to Jason Bowman, Big Ten Garage. Jason is kind of who I think of when I think of conversions. He's done a 4BT. He's done a 12-valve. He's getting ready to do, I think, an LLY in his dad's 77 dually. So he's got a lot of different experience. And I asked him before, when I got up here, I called him and I said, did you have to modify anything? Did you have to change your tunnel? Did you have to change anything on the frame? He said the front cross member, now not your main cross member, but that smaller kind of cross member in between the core support and your main, suspension cross member. He said he had to kind of cut a little bit of that for the water pump, and then he did make his own transmission mount, essentially because he's running an NV4500, a Cummins one, but he did not have to change his tunneling. He said it's close. So one of the things you're going to want to do is, if you're thinking about doing any conversion, you're probably going to want to pick yourself up a high hump, which is going to be a four-wheel drive, come out of a four-wheel drive truck. Now, one thing that Sean and I were talking about is up in Montana, their conversions, they've got, this huge Land Rover looking thing where it's a high four-wheel drive. I'm talking big boy. So a lot of their stuff with their conversions is up high, where we tend to go a little lower. Now, like Nick Cortina, for example, he's got one of the just amazing square bodies slammed on the ground, sitting on a GSI chassis. You go low with your chassis, you've got to bring the motor up. So essentially, AKA a drop member, you're raising the motor up to put the chassis lower. When you raise the motor up, that motor, if it's number 6, honestly I don't remember if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on a Dodge, but I'm assuming it's number 6. That cylinder, the rear of that motor and that transmission are going to be up into your firewall. So you're going to have to do some fabrication by going lower. Jason's truck, it's a crew cab dually, broke back. He did not have to modify anything on that truck at this point. So just to kind of work through all that. Now, I talked to Sean a little bit and I said, okay, I wonder about my 71, which is going to be free tow lay. Now, Jason says we're going to have to go high hump. I haven't gotten it obviously into the frame yet, into the chassis to say where will the motor be. I'll detail the whole thing. The bottom line is today is if you're looking for a Cummins and you're looking to do a Cummins swap, figure out what you want. Now, I'm going to hit them up. Kind of something else just popped into my mind. What about the 4BT and what about the new 2.8 that you can buy right off the shelf? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the 4BT is a fine engine choice, certainly. There's two caveats, just so everyone can be aware, is it's not very well balanced. So it does have a little more rattle than the 6BT, its bigger brother. Basically, parts, for the most part, really do interchange down to the pistons and things of that nature. You can fully dress a 4BT just as if it were a 6BT that came from a Dodge. You can get the AC compressor on there and vacuum and power steering pumps and things like that. And that's one key thing to keep in mind here is, GM's been great with keeping hydro boost throughout the generations, but not all of them have hydro boost. And so because that Dodge, like a 12 valve in this example, or a 4BT that's equipped as a 12 valve. It does have a vacuum and a power steering pump, so that's a real important feature for you builders out there to be aware of. The 2.8 is a great engine choice as well. Now, this is almost like an LS crate engine. It comes in a crate, you pop the top, and it's got everything. It's got a wire harness, it's got a throttle pedal, it's the engine, it's a complete package. Now, you're still going to have to do things, plumbing, like your air-to-air or even a water-to-air intercooler, your exhaust and some other things like that. But for the most part, it's all there and ready to go. You just got to plumb it up.
For the audience, Metalox is doing that right now on a SEMA build on a 66, and he seems to love it. It's all, getting ready to go in. I'll talk about that a little bit more as we know more. That's probably one of the first ones that's going to be at SEMA in United Pacific. You talk a little bit about the intercooler. What do you recommend? Do they pull the intercooler? Is that something where they get it aftermarket? Sean's got one sitting right out here. They're getting ready to put it in something. Why don't you tell us what you're putting it in, and then what else that details getting, parts, and do you have any of that parts availability, or do you recommend a different company? And what are they thinking when it comes down to cost or retail on that little 2.8?
So the 2.8 is really priced in between $8,000 and $9,000, depending on where you purchase it. This is Cummins direct. This isn't a remanufactured engine. This is a brand new crate engine. So it comes with a warranty. It comes with access to all of the goodies that Cummins has to offer as well. Powerful package. So despite the fact that like a 4BT is 3.9 liters, a lot of people scoff the fact that it's only 2.8. Well, believe it or not, it's pumping out about 350 foot-pounds of torque. So this is a very respectable number. Fuel economy-wise, we don't really have a whole lot there for you yet, but ultimately our goal is to continue the Ford and Cummins product line. We're going to probably put it in an F-150, as well as test it out in some other applications to see what does that 350 foot-pounds of torque haul around. And so, I think our upcoming project is going to be an F-150.
So I think just from listening to you say that, whether a guy wants it in a two-wheel drive or a four-wheel drive, but even going back to some Jeeping days, a little four-banger, the little YJ, right, the square headlight, they came out in like 90, I'm going to say like 89 to 90, right there is where where they got rid of the CJ, and they evolved, and maybe even 88. But sometimes having a little four-banger was better for four-wheeling because you were keeping your wheels on the ground. I could see that little 4BT, that 2.8. I'm told it's like 190 horsepower and possibly up to 40 miles per gallon. So we're yet to see, and we're going to find out. But interesting to see something like that in a little four-wheel drive truck or, off-road machine, Jeep, something like that. What do you see people putting them in besides an F-150?
Well, I think a C10 would be a great application. If you want something that's styling and you want to get really good fuel economy, this is a great way to do that. Again, the engine's reasonably priced. It's a complete package for the most part. Every conversion requires something. So as you're out there trying to figure in a budget, we typically run $1,000 to $1,500 when we switch from a gas to a diesel. That includes the intercooler or a water-to-air system, fuel lines, filters, all of those things that some people just, at the top of their head, they don't really consider at first glance for their budget. So I think the 2.8 is going to be a great fuel economy engine, as well as produce some really nice torque numbers. So even if someone wanted to, let's say, tow a boat to the lake on the weekend or something like that, I think this is a totally capable engine.
You guys, it's small enough, it's almost cute, that it would probably fit really well in a C10. And so again, we're looking to see what Kyle does over at Metalox Fab and how it fits and looks in that little 66 that he's building right now. So we'll keep an eye out on that. We'll obviously update you guys. Something with a high fuel mileage. Now, what about injectors on an older Cummins? That's something that having a 12 valve, that was the big thing. You always had to go, stage 2, stage 3. Should guys be thinking about updating their injector no matter what motor they have? If they have a Cummins, if they have a Ford, if they have a Duramax, do you have any experience with that? Or do you primarily just stay Cummins? And if so, should they change out their injectors or should they leave stock? Or what stage do you see guys being in?
There's a lot of different options here, and some people really have this down to a science. If you want really good fuel economy, there's a turbo and injector combination for you. I'm not the expert there, and I don't want to pretend to be, but there's a lot of people in the industry like Power Driven Diesel. They've got some fantastic products and combinations. So if you have something in mind power-wise, like let's say 400 horsepower, they're going to tell you, here's the injector to match with this turbocharger to accomplish that. And if you're shooting for really good fuel economy, they'll set you up with the right package. And so, yeah, definitely you can get some big gains, whether it's power, performance, or, in the fuel economy realm. So yes, injectors and turbochargers do make a big difference.
All right. I mean, you guys have a ton of options out there, a lot of choices. You got 12 valves, you got 24 valves, you know that they're proven, you know that they last, you know that you can get parts for them. And one thing Sean was saying is you can pretty much go anywhere and get Cummins parts nowadays. What would you say is the weak link of a 12 or a 24 valve that somebody should be considering? And if they didn't have the budget to rebuild it right away, or, hey, I'm going on a road trip, for a big block, I'm taking a water pump, I'm taking a thermostat, I'm taking some radiator hose, some coolant. What would you say is a weak link of a Cummins 12 and 24 valve, if there is such a thing?
C10 Nation, what's stopping you? Well, CPP has you covered. They offer multiple different options to make the disc brake conversion as easy as possible on both you and your wallet. And I am so stoked to announce they are giving our listeners 10% off your total order. 10%. Damn, son. From stock height conversions to their Big Break Grand Slam kit. This kit includes their famous modular spindle, a 13-inch rotor, and twin piston calipers. How's your altitude? You need to get a little lower? CPP has you covered there too. They offer a wide variety of drop kits for you to choose from. Have you seen their late model power steering boxes for C10s? Their 500 series power steering boxes are 100% brand new units inside and out. It's the best on the market today, and it's a direct bolt-on to 1967 through 87 C10 truck frames. Guys, take advantage of this 10% savings now. Head over to classicperform.com, that's classicperform.com, and use special code C10TALK. That's C10TALK to save big today.
C10 Nation, what up, what up? I've been buying my truck parts from Brothers for over 20 years now. BrothersTrucks.com. Anything you need from 47 to 87 Chevy and GMC restoration parts. The cool thing about Brothers, they've updated their website, super user-friendly, but they're more than just truck parts. They also offer a killer monthly newsletter, which really honestly goes into all kinds of things within the scene, a little bit in-depth. Sometimes I contribute, and so do many others. Talks about new videos that they have out, new tech, new parts that are on the horizon, and other current events in the scene. So get online, brotherstrucks.com, get yourself the latest catalog, and sign up for the monthly newsletter. It includes restoration tips, videos, hot forum topics, event info, and so much more. So if you want to stay as current as possible, sign up for the catalog and get your Brothers monthly newsletter. It's that easy. BrothersTrucks.com, BrothersTrucks.com. What would you say is a weak link of a Cummins 12 and 24 valve, if there is such a thing?
So on the 12 valve, this is something that it really put Cummins on the map and made them world famous, like I had said earlier. And is there a weak link? Sure, there is to every engine. Are there any really well-known weak links? Not really. Unless you're building the engine to perform beyond what it was really designed, capability-wise, there really shouldn't be a weak link there. The 24 valve, I'm glad you asked, because a lot of people are under the impression that the VP44 injection pump on a 24 valve is pretty weak sauce, and that's really absolutely not the case. It's one of the better injection pumps manufactured by Bosch that Cummins chose to put on their engine. Great power, great fuel economy, tunability, but it's really not the VP44 that was suspect. there's a lift pump that's built onto the engine, and realistically, that's the weak link. This is a high volume, low pressure system. And that lift pump or transfer pump, if it isn't transferring enough fuel, the diaphragm inside the VP44 gets chewed up. And so that's a very expensive and costly mistake there. So realistically, the 24 valves is one of my favorite engines personally, as long as you've got a good lift pump, fast. AirDog, Fuel Lab, fill in the blank, spend the money. Yes, it's going to be 4 to 5 times what you would spend for your local, Napa lift pump. But that's money well spent, because realistically, that's a $1,200 insurance policy.
So is that about how much one of the aftermarket one costs? About $1,200 to get a higher end lift pump?
No, not the lift pump itself. They're in the 4 to, if you really want to get wild, if you're building big power, you can run up into the $700-800 range for one of these lift pumps. But the VP44, to have it rebuilt, even if you do have a core, you've got to take it off your engine, send it out, and it can run $1,200 or more. And if you don't want to deal with the core, you just want to order one in, you're looking at $2,000 to $2,500 up front. So it's a massive investment.
So how much is one of the aftermarket ones?
There's some various options there. You can get pretty wild with these things. Places like Industrial Injections, Firefly, you can get big power out of those, and you can run up over $3,000.
That sounds like to me primarily one of those guys that's going to be a diesel puller, maybe a guy who's going to the drags, not somebody who's just cruising. Granted, we like to roll coal. We like to see it. Guy I think of is Coal Cart. He's got, I think his is a 12 valve. It might be 24, but he's got that stack right out of the front. Obviously, we love to see that thing roll coal, and Coal Cart does a great job with that truck. That truck gets killer fuel mileage. I know Bowman gets killer fuel mileage. When I'm driving Yellowstone, I'm not passing a fuel station hardly, whereas Jason can keep on going. And I know Coal Cart did the same thing, Jeremy over there. So kind of a shout out to those guys that are running those diesels. And to think that a 2.8, you can buy it from, Cummins right now from a dealer. Hell, if you want, a few episodes back, Corey Hogan said he'll sell you one too. He's a Cummins dealer. So if you're thinking about it, you've got questions, I think you hit these guys up. They're on social media, DCS_diesel_conversions. What is something that you see going out of your shop the most, Sean? So you've got trucks that are coming in to get converted. Customers are bringing them to you here in the shop. And then you also have a shipping department that's shipping out conversion, different parts. What's your number one part? And can anybody do this conversion? What would you say on a 1 to 10 putting a 12 or 24 valve in their truck?
I would say the most popular, and it's a tight race, either the 2003 to 2007 era of the 6-liter Power Stroke, or the 2008 to 10, the 6.4 Power Stroke.
They're getting converted the most out.
Those are getting the most converted, yeah. Yep. And great trucks, beautiful trucks. They really are just a poor power plant. And, Ford has some well-known issues with them, and guys can, basically have two options. Keep that beautiful truck that they've got and put a new power plant in there. You know what you've got, that whole built versus bought thing. The last time the brakes were changed, you've got the intimate details about your pickup truck. So that's the most converted. There's a lot of hobby builders out there, though, don't get me wrong. So we do sell, lots of engine mounts, do it yourself. Absolutely. This is something that it's been done enough that really it's a tried and true process. Is it going to take more than a 300-piece Craftsman tool set? Yeah, let's be honest. You've got to have a shop, the space to do it, and the tools and the time. It's really one of those. You should expect nothing less than it coming from Ford like this, down to the cruise control. Really, other than the rumble under the hood, no one would know that you didn't buy it this way.
So what would you say is the number one part then, just going back, like that you guys ship out mostly? Was that what you said, kind of the motor mounts is the number one thing that you guys ship out for all the different parts that you do offer?
It would either be the engine mounts in that era of pickup truck, or most likely the adapter plate for the Ford's 5R110 automatic transmission. It's a stout transmission. Really, it's meant to hold up to the power that the Cummins produces, and it doesn't need to be built. It's just primed and ready to go. And honestly, these pickup trucks already have holes drilled in the frame to slide the transmission back a couple inches. shorten that rear drive shaft again, a couple inches. But because the Cummins can be purchased in a Ford in the F6 and F750s, the F2 through 550s primed and ready to go, already holes drilled in the frame. And so it's really the adapter plate for the Ford 5R110 automatic transmission that's the number one seller.
Okay, excellent. Another thing that Sean brought up, and he's very thorough in saying that he's not bashing Allison by any means or the transmission, was that the Allison transmission is just a tough conversion for them because of the way, the adaptability. So if you're looking to, put a 12 valve or a 24 valve, you're probably going to want to go with 4L80, and they make the conversion for that. They make all that here. Whereas for me, I'm running an NV4500. If you want to go with a standard, then think NV4500. I'll tell you right now, you're not going to beat the value for the pricing of an NV4500. A couple $100, you've got a 5-speed versus a 4L80. You're looking at, let's just say, $1,000 to $1,500, depend on where it's at, and then you've got to adapt to it. What is the cost for my audience for motor mounts? And then let's just say adaptability to a 4L80, and then maybe that AC bracket relocator, just so we get an idea of, cost to do some of these things and the products that you offer here at DCS.
So realistically, between the adapter plate and then the flex plate, some call it a torque converter adapter, those two pieces, along, if you do go with, let's say, a more modern, a 4L80 automatic trans, the controller for that, the high mount AC bracket, and the engine mounts, you're looking in the, I'm going to round up and call it the $3,000 range. It won't be that much, but again, I've kind of budged on the numbers a little bit just for the simple fact we had kind of talked earlier in the cast here about a realistic budget. And so I like to do that just for the simple fact of you've got some other things in play here. If a lift pump alone can run anywhere from $350 to as much as $800, that's a huge sway in just one single piece or component of this conversion. So I like to round up just to be safe and get you guys, thinking realistically about the prices. So, it can be great if you find an engine for $800, that's cool, but you've got some other things to keep in mind as well.
So keep in mind individually how much for motor mounts?
$350 for the engine mounts. It's $679 for the adapter plate, and then an additional $550 for the flex plate. We really sell that in a combination. They're not available individually because they wouldn't work individually anyway. There's no mixing and matching of those parts. The high mount AC bracket is about $600. The trans control module about $750.
And you've got to have that trans control module. Of all things, believe me, that $750 is the going rate. Just like when I transferred or essentially put in 4L80 into Yellowstone, that's the big thing. If you're going to have a big block and you're going to have a mechanical motor, it's got to talk to digital or computerized transmission. So you've got to have that to be able to function and have that transmission shift accordingly, and you've got to have that module.
Yeah, and kind of popping back to like the 700R4 as an example, it's a fine transmission in its own right, but being the fact that it's all mechanical does have its disadvantage as well, just for the simple fact you've got to come up with a kickdown cable. Some call it a throttle vacuum valve. There's different nomenclature for it, but the 700R4 was really never designed to hold up to the Cummins power. So it can be built, of course, but as you do that, now you're getting into valve bodies and other things versus a 4L80. You can go down to the junkyard, any LS type motor, and go grab yourself a 4L80. So it's more readily available. And despite the fact that you do need a trans control module, they're so powerful and user-friendly these days that it's highly recommended.
Do you guys offer any tranny mounting or anything, or do you have a recommendation for people to utilize? I will tell you, on Yellowstone, my Squarebody, my 73, I used the stock Turbo 400. Now, I had to move it and re-drill holes to mount it, but that worked. Do you have any company that you recommend for that? Or when you see guys adding, for example, even an NV4500 into a C10?
Yeah, so the NV4500 is going to be a little bit different. Yes, you will have to create a custom transmission mount for that. And of course, two-wheel drive versus four-wheel drive, it's a different animal there with the T-case. So yeah, there is that. I'm not aware of anybody that makes those readily available. It's just something that you've got to build, as far as I'm aware. Certainly don't know all of the options out there. There's new companies popping up every day with new products, but realistically, if it's let's say a 4L80, that really just bolts in directly to the existing transmission mount. So there is no fabrication. So, even though someone might save money by purchasing an NV4500 Dodge transmission, well, you're going to spend some time versus money there. So it's, there's a trade-off no matter which way you choose to go. And that's kind of why we've always historically just put in the GM automatics. They're simple, they're bolt-in replacement, and other than splicing in a few wires, those trans control modules come with a plug-and-play ready wire harness.
So there you go. I think there's a few companies out there that offer, I think Dirty Dingo and CPP, Classic Performance Products. I'll have to see if CPP offers it for like that 4L80. I think they do. I'll have to look into that. The bottom line is, you've heard me say it a few times, we're so lucky that we could pick whatever truck we want, and we can look back over time and say, I really like that power plant. That's a proven power plant. And you've got choices. You can get a 12 valve. You can get a 24 valve. You can go with a 6.7. You can put a standard NV4500 behind it, a 4L80. You have plenty of options, plug and play. And just like Sean said, you might need a little bit more than a 350 piece Craftsman set. But honestly, a lot of our audience, a lot of do-it-yourselfers, a lot of build not bought. And if you can't quite get through it, you're going to be able to reach out to somebody in the C10 Nation that's going to help you or point you in the right direction. So for this series, it works out perfect because I'm up here. I get to meet Sean. There's something obviously very genuine about meeting somebody, looking them in the eye and shaking their hand, putting a face with a voice. So we're glad that we ought to be able to do that. I'll continue along, obviously, as I put my 12 valve in Frito-Lay. You'll see Big Ten Bowman. I know I'll reach out to him and ask him a few more questions before we drop this so that I can kind of answer some of those questions that I might have. I'm looking through my notes, Sean. I don't see that much more to go over. It's really good information, and these guys are doing it daily. They've got 10 different trucks out in the shop. We walked around, and they really have all varieties. On their pallet rack, they've got 3 different levels of Cummins is just stacked up there. They're getting them. They're pulling them. They've got the 2.8. They've got the 12. They've got the 24s. They've got a lot of stuff going on. So, Sean, thank you so much. They can get a hold of you. I did mention the Instagram. What about Facebook?
Yes, we also have a Facebook page as well, and by all means, please give us a call. We are a customer service-oriented company, so if you buy, let's say, some engine mounts from us, we do take great pride in, if you've got questions, call us. And so, please reach out to us at www.dieselconversion.com, or give us a call anytime at area code 406-755-8878, and we've got staff standing by ready to answer your questions and help you out with this process.
What about Minnesota?
Yes, we also have a location in Minnesota as well. So for the most part here in Montana, we're manufacturing and shipping. And then in Minnesota is sales and technical support staff.
How does a company go from Kalispell, Montana? You've got a shop here. And then how did you secondarily end up with another shop in Minnesota?
The owner actually lives in Minnesota, and he travels back and forth. So this is something that as he expands and grows the business, he is expanding closer to home. So he hopefully doesn't have to travel as much here in his retirement years.
I'm assuming the owner has a nice 24 valve in his truck. He's driving back and forth. He's probably got a nice F350 with a Cummins in it. Am I right?
Yeah, 2008 to 10 era, we took the 6.4 Power Stroke out and put a 6.7 Cummins in there. Yeah.
Hey, the proof is in the pudding, and they're doing exactly what they're talking about out in the shop. So if you got questions, DCS, hit them up. You can call them. You can look them up on the web, Facebook, Instagram. You got it. Sean, thanks for taking the time to set aside for us today.